You are tuned to Stone Soup Poets live at TT the Bears.
Are we lucky because we have a great last round? We're going to go with our second open, and we're going to start with some folks that played remarkably well at 20 Rug Road. And I was lucky enough to be part of that act. I mean, not this act, but part of the show. I'm sorry. Let's have a hand for the gentleman that makes everything happen with lights and sound, Jerry Faison. And Angie, who shoots for us. And they're going to do a couple of interesting riffs that they've practiced for about several months for, right? So let's have a hand for the Jerry and Angie show. Here they come.
Actually, we've never played this one together, and it was just written today, so wish us luck.
two friends of ours played such incredible roles here. Jerry and Angie. By the way, if you ever hear of anything happening at 20 Rug Road and you take Stairway 4, you're in heaven, artistically. No, beautiful night, and I want to thank Jerry and all the people who contributed to that. Let's see, we're ready. Oh God, I know one name. Thank you. Whoa. That's okay. That doesn't belong there. As you can see, it's the wrong. Doesn't fit, but that was my fault. Sorry. Karen and Miguel. And now that this is reassembled, thanks to Sonny Bakwane, we'll get this done. Do we need two mics? Okay, Chip and Jerry's up. So, Karen and Miguel.
Well, they were really good, huh? Well, Miguel and I have just started working on some pieces together. I used to do some stuff in New York, and Miguel's been playing for a couple years. Weeks. Well, I feel a little bit guilty because I'm about to take it somewhere completely different than where you've been. It's very mellow and enlightening me. I've worked for a lot of years with a lot of victim advocacy grassroots programs, and a lot of my stuff is about some heavy issues, so I hope that you can take what you get from it. Thank you. Dirty, rotten little bastards. Who are you to tell me how to live my life, imposing strife, making my nights sleepless? I'm a woman, and whether my lover is a man or a woman, how dare you come between the little love left here on earth? You've won at law and legislature, but you have not won the ability to make me lie, lying down. Face down, smelling the puke on the ground until I take my last breath. You'd better piss in your pants, because my vengeance will rise with my quest. I may seem like a little one now, but as you see the spots on a cow, I see his teeth. I watch from how tiny specks of water comes a river and how the relentless flow can be diminished. An earthquake's undertow smash the existence miles and miles away. And much like the effervescent bubble, my charm will pop in your face till at last you lie flat in disgrace, smelling the defecation of all you've created. And when you live the lie, don't deny your piece in the rotten pie. With stains of pain, I see the little girl's eyes. You see the man's with his hand in his pocket. I watch her fade with you mesmerized by the little bit of refrain. I see her engulfed in flame living hell here on earth, and this man walks freely sitting, blaze to the seedlings of life while you hustle, bother, infringe on my rights to save this tortured child. This man again walks freely. And when I tell you I am this child and I have seen firsthand the filth, the demise, the pain, the man's hungry eyes, you tell me, listen to my statement. How would I know such a thing except through the humiliation? How would I know of what you speak when I forcibly close the door as I open my legs? And how would I know to call you the lying scum you truly are? How would I know except for you and this blatant disregard for who I am? How would I know until the gods above stood and told me I was blessed? Now I live with love in my heart, a vengeance stronger than fire, filled with a constant desire to watch you crumble under your own demise. And as the law is a one-way door, it takes only one shot to break the glass, and with every passing day, my aim strengthens. Yeah. Well, thank you. Wow, it's been a couple of years since I've read, so I appreciate y'all listening. And Miguel and I are very excited to be doing some stuff. This is a little bit different. I'm not used to a mic. How much could you hear? Am I good enough now? Yeah. Is that good? Right there? Your kiss is like double chocolate nutty buddy ice cream. Sweet, rich-filled, and delish. I'd take one bite, I eat the whole of it. Regardless of my wishes, I am slamming to your lips. My body swells from mere anticipation, for that sparkle in your eyes break through my weak inoculation. Glances as you watch, as I enjoy bathing in the rapture. I feel like a man ejaculating pleasure derived from your tender glances. Your body salutes me, bringing your eyes to neutral territory. Like a mirror, all I see are tiny droplets of me reflecting in your pupils. You glance towards the opening separating you from myself and the world, and you choose me, opening the vessels of my maiden flower. You nibble from my nectars, and I sprout a flower. Red with green petals, it shows no envy. I have it all. Heavy panting, the door opens and closes. You're inside. I reach out to feel the moistness in the crotch of your pant leg and experience a pensive moment when your nose reaches mine. Your lips hovering mid-air like your hips until finally I grab at your mouth, trying to insert the whole of it, until we two escape the boundaries and free ourselves as one. Miguel? Are you guys adjusting to this New York style? I don't know, because it's a little weird. I know the Course of Miracles, and my friend talks about it all the time. And it's really beautiful, and I was like, wow, my stuff's so heavy. I was all like enlightened, you know. I was like, wow. And I'm like, oh no, I gotta go read this stuff. It's like, hey, fuck you, man. Who are you to torture me? You know? I feel a little bit like the host from a dating game too. I don't know. Does anybody feel like Bachelor #1? It's kind of throwing me off earlier. It's a little bit different than New York up here. I had it, you know. I was kind of thinking maybe we should start this for some poets like me, you know. 1-800 has my reading. I spent a couple of years in Manhattan where I used to do a lot of stuff, but I hang out with some crazy wild people there. You can get away with almost anything on stage in New York, you know? Have to be careful. All right, this is our last piece. And, you ready? When I think about you, I become obsessed with this compulsion that grabs at my throat and chokes me harder than a noose thrown from the ceiling. Hung taut from the ceiling with the weight of my newly deceased soul, holding the tension just so, as I would not sway as easily as I do in my love for you. Condemned to the fondling of my own flesh, tortured by the lack of your existence, in my most sensual lust, my neck thrusts backwards, taunting your lips to bite me, with the same vulnerable appetite as I have just served to your palate. Impeccable and distinguished taste such as yours should find me quite an enjoyable feast, so eat you. You vicious, untamed bestiality. Fresh boiling saliva drips from your mouth and lands on the nipple of my breast. Panic, anguish, Adam and Eve, the first bite. In my dreams at night, you stand before me and you love, entertain, and feed my passions to heart delight. You are sweet and sensitive, everything I've ever imagined. You're great in bed and good with children. We think alike. Afraid to feel all that I might imagine, because you're not here in front of me where I can grab you. My body purges in sexual anguish. Well, not anymore, because fantasies run rampant, and you touch me, wrap your arms around my waist, and in no sudden haste, pull our pelvic bones to me. Hovering in mid-air, you kiss the nape of my neck in such a way that you leave your ears easy prey. And as I have always wanted to possess the freedom to touch you, I lean over and nibble from the passions your road life, and spit them out coming. And don't forget to send away your Ed McMahon $1 million sweepstake. There's only like 13 other in the world besides me that have a chance of winning. I swear, I'm 1 of 14. I'm at level 4. Thank you.
Karen and Miguel. Thank you very much. We have now the privilege of presenting someone we always look forward to week after week. Let's have a hand for Erik Nelson.
Now, this poem is ideally read by somebody who is wearing a helicopter beanie, you know, those hats with the propeller on top. But unfortunately, mine is broken today, so I'll have to do without. When I was a little boy, my older sister said she wanted to look more like a model. I said, do you mean a model car? A model airplane? A model rocket? I, for one, wished I was a robot. No need to feel pain, to get tired, to die, to be born. I know a boy who was older than me, who was building a great big plastic model Apollo 11 rocket. I would go and visit him, and he would let me watch him build it for a while. Then he'd say, "Your mother wants you," and I'd go home. And I knew all about stages and capsules and re-entry vehicles and life support systems and one small step for a man. Here are some things you can do if you don't like your body the way it is, or you wish you didn't have a body at all. Some people want a more ideal body, so they're interested in diet pills and breast implants and cosmetic surgery. A model is their model. Some people want a more ideal mind, so they're interested in drugs that can make you smarter. The mind is just like a computer, only sloppier and less efficient. Artificial intelligence is their model. And some people want to live forever. And in order to do this, what you have to do is you have to have your body frozen when you die, and then one day scientists in the future will find a way to bring it back to life. And actually, it's cheaper if you just freeze your head, because it takes up less storage space. And then have the scientists find someone else's body to put your brain in the future. Actually, why bother to have a body at all? All you need to do is download your brain in software. And I'm not sure what the model is for this idea, but I have a feeling that they left the tube of cement open and inhaled the fumes. Someday these people might find out that their mother wants them and it's time to come home.
Erik Nelson, thank you, Erik. Someone who works, has worked on the Boston poet and a poet friend for many years with us. Let's have a hand for Merle Denofsky.
Thank you, Jack. This is actually for next week's celebration of America's 220th, which I unfortunately won't be able to attend. It's called Brian, 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 the campaign of 1896, as viewed at the time by a 16-year-old. Now, I never learned this because I'm a Canadian, but maybe you people are familiar that in 1896 there was a Democratic candidate by the name of William Jennings Bryan, who was a kind of populist. In those days, the Democrats sort of represented the West and Midwest and South, and the Republicans represented the Northeast, which was the center of big business. It was different from today. And these Democrats representing the West were mad at the big business in the Northeast because they were telling the West how to run things. Big business in the East would run everything out West. And Bryan led this sort of uprising to the Western people fighting for their freedom and rights. But this is the whole thing as seen by a kid. I'll just read part one, since that will fit the time limit. In a nation of 100 fine, mob-hearted, lynching, relenting, repenting millions, there are plenty of sweeping, swinging, stinging, gorgeous things to shout about and knock your old blue devils out. I brag and chant of Brian, 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 candidate for president who sketched a silver Zion, the one American poet who could sing outdoors. He brought in tides of wonder, of unprecedented splendor, wild roses from the plains that made hearts tender, all the funny circus silks of politics unfurled, Bartlett pears of romance that were honey at the cores, and torchlights down the street to the end of the world. There were truths eternal in the gab and tittle-tattle. There were real heads broken in the fustian and the rattle. There were real lines drawn, not the silver and the gold. But Nebraska's cry went eastward against the dour and old, the mean and cold. It was 1896, and I was just 16, and Altgeld ruled in Springfield, Illinois. when there came from the sunset Nebraska's shout of joy, in a coat like a deacon, and a black Stetson hat. He scourged the elephant plutocrats with barbed wire from the Platte. The scales dropped from their mighty eyes. They saw that summer's noon a tribe of wonders coming to a marching tune. Oh, the longhorns from Texas, the jayhawks from Kansas, the plop-eyed bungaroo and giant Jyassicus, the varmint, chipmunk, bugaboo, the horned toad, prairie dog, and ballyhoo. From all the newborn states a row, bidding the eagles of the west fly on, bidding the eagles of the west fly on. The fawn, prodactyl, and thingamajig, the rackaboor, the helengon, the wangdoodle, batfowl, and pig, the coyote, wildcat, and grizzly in a glow. In a miracle of health and speed, the whole breed abreast, they left the Mississippi, blue border of the west, from the Gulf to Canada, 2,000 miles long. Against the towns of Tubal-Cain, sharp was their song. Against the ways of Tubal-Cain, too cunning for the young, the longhorn cat, the buffalo, and wampus gave tongue. These creatures were defending things Mark Hanna never dreamed. The moods of eerie childhood that in desert Jews gleam, the gossamers and whimsies, the monkey shines and didos, rank and strange, of the canyons and the range, the ultimate fantastics of the far western slope, and of prairie schooner children born beneath the stars, beneath falling snows, of the babes born at midnight in the sod huts of lost hope, with no physicians there except the Kansas prayer, with the Indian raid a-howling through the air, and all these in their helpless days by the dour East oppressed. Mean paternalism, making their mistakes for them, crucifying half the West, till the whole Atlantic coast seemed a giant spider's nest. And these children and their sons at last rode through the cactus, a cliff of mighty cowboys on the lope, with gun and rope. And all the way to frightened Maine, the old East heard them call, and saw our Brian by a mile lead the wall of men and whirling flowers and beasts, the bard and the prophet of them all. Prairie Avenger, Mountain Lion, Brian, 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 gigantic troubadour, speaking like a siege gun, smashing Plymouth Rock with his boulders from the west. And just 100 miles behind, tornadoes piled across the sky, blotting out sun and moon, a sign on high. Headlong, dazed and blinking in the weird green light, the scalawags made moan, afraid to fight.
Denofsky. By the way, when the famous Cross of Gold speech was made at the convention, Darrow, Clarence Darrow, turned to Advelt and said, when everyone's up and screaming, he says, "What did he say?" He said, "We're listening to meaning, not to projection." So, anyway, let us be on our guard against that kind of, shall we say, semi-eloquence on any stage, especially the political one in a political year. Thank you, Murray. We shall now have up Allan Finnigan. Allan.
Been writing for a little while, and it is always said, which one wrote, the city sleeps. The city sleeps tonight, cold and hungered, in jaundiced isolation, while vagrant souls scour the dark and dingy corridors of misspent dreams and forgotten tales of paradise lost. How sweet youth display. Mute whispers cry in vain to be heard above the noise of vulgar madness, destitute, despair. Is an atoning, turbulent affair. The dirges drown the lost fleet to innocent pleas of dignity, Oh, the city sleeps tonight, but never gives up its dead. Wake up, O decadent fever, wake up, the dawn will soon arise. On the eve of maturity, out of fear has come the courage, as out of courage comes the fear, and out of disparity comes the hope, like a new undaunted twilight, on the threshold of darkness, as in the dreams of childhood, that shine a virgin light, bred from the innocence to hold a future bright. Yet on the eve of maturity, something is lost along the way. How sad it is to think how much our innocence has strayed, and what we thought was real turned out to be illusions of disenchanted dreams. It was only what we see is not always as it seems. This one's called Distant Shores. I saw them now, what they really were, of places to go and places to see, of what they wanted to be. The child dreamed of wisdom he hoped to gain someday, but didn't want to venture for the price he had to pay. Lonely hearts dreamt for love not to die. I'm sorry. Lonely hearts dreamt for love not to die, while dreams on forgotten faces showed with hope in a baby's first cry. There was the rich man's dream of freedom, trapped in the monetary darkness of the things he could not see. The poor man dreamt of wealth and what he wanted to be, but was trapped in the consciousness of his insecurity. And as the old man dreamt of youth, lost in moments' time, he saw the things that were and those he couldn't find. And then I sailed the rivers to seas of things to be, and saw on faces passing there the look of perplexity, and the light shone to distant shores afar. I'm a little nervous. This is about, this one is called Once and Then. And I was 16 and she was 14. I loved you once in the summer of my youth. In the cool waters of my dreams you flowed. You languished in the marrow of my soul, my first love. You poured into my veins like blood upon the earth, although you did not know it. You crept into my heart like dawn steals the night's embrace, although you did not know it. And now, the softness of your touch, the linger of your kiss, the beauty of your smile come back to me in the night of my years since past. You, in the shadows of my memory, in the trace of dawn, in the stillness that surrounds me, in the echoes of my heart. I loved you once, and then, in the summer of my youth, I love you now. The moonlight becomes you, pouring over your Venusian body while dressed in sheets of darkness. Drops of sweat erupt, oozing with the taste of passion's carnal nectar. The moonlight becomes you, encased in the night's cavernous domain, and I have become lost inside the labyrinth of desire, wrapped in the bosom of your naked touch. The moonlight becomes you, clinging to the dark in its opulent stare, and we melt inside the furnace of night's tender realm.
Thank you very much. That was Allan, Finnigan. One of the great things about Night Systems, who we're going to have someone like Allan reading on this stage, I believe, for the first time, and then someone we share a lot of time with, pleasant time. Let's have a hand now for our next reader. Elizabeth McCann.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to read a poem I wrote a while back, but I decided to read it tonight thinking about all the terrible fires in the black churches across this country. And it's called Fire. Fire. Flames insist their way into the most minimal passageways. Nothing here is at rest. Everything leaps and breathes with some other dancing self. Yes, many have died here. Some didn't come back, some did. It was a question of the heat's intensity and timing. At one point, the flames took over everything. There was no going anywhere but red. The animals, baffled, were led from the barns. The birds, in terror, fled from the forest. All I remember afterwards was the soft touch of ash where there had been trees, where the land had sighed and produced fruit. Bonfires everywhere, and the small sounds of birds gasping uncommonly in the common smoke. My smoke is in your fire. Your fire is on my land. Your land is on my territory. Your territory is on my frontier. My frontier is on your shoreline. Your shoreline is in my water. My water is in your air. Your air is in my breath. My breath is in your heart. Your heart is in my blood. My blood is in your life. Your life is in my hands. My life is in your hands. Your hands is in my life. My life is on fire.
Elizabeth. Thank you. Next we shall have Gary Hicks.
First poem is dedicated to the idea that what goes around comes around. And it's short and it's called Anthems. lilacs, killer dragoons, red, white, blue, sing their love songs off key. 12 decades later, lullabies in Vietnam, anthems in triumph. Those of you who have worked on the corporate scene, it's a beautiful silence around that gun. Have probably been here at one point or another. This is called cards. Friday happy hour. Drinks, cheese dips, and celery. Chattering profound. He offers his card. Even as we are talking, conversation ends. One card, name, address, phone, profession, what he does in order to live. Letters glare at me. Times Roman and italic magnetize my eyes. Old songs on my mind. What you see is what you get. Card gives sounds of silence. Off-white cream color. Classical Baroque logos. Wallet-sized summons. Jacks, queens, kings, aces. Jokers, number 2 to 10, in suits like they're players. Cards say give a call. New reverse psychology, downsized responses. I will play their game. Shuffle on the plantation, cut decks on the streets. I can break up suits. I can network and spin webs. I will play to win. I will take his card. Even as we are talking, conversation ends. I'm in a 2-week writers workshop. My instructor's name is Daisy Zamora. Who, among other things, she's a psychologist. She speaks English very well. She's from Nicaragua. She speaks English very well, but she does mispronounce some words. And that, in her profession, brought forth the following poem, which is called Freud Slipped for Our Sins. She has assigned us the task of writing a poem about an object. Take any object from the street or in your home and bring it to class. She speaks English well, except she calls our workshops poetry worships. We bring our objects, Somali sacred rites text, an x-ray of thumb, 3 courtesy cards, a Chinese restaurant poem, faded blue jeans. She speaks English well, except she calls our workshop poetry worships. She writes on the board considerations for work, but it's still our call. We gently critique each the other's fragile drafts. She listens quiet. She speaks English well, except she calls our workshop poetry worships. Days pass all too fast. Fortresses are dismantled. Gentle are cannons. Words are symphonic, Pentecostal fiery, tongues of choral verse. She speaks English well, except she calls our workshop poetry worships. Is this accident? Otherwise good diction, but imperfected word? Or are we in church, praising our divine musings, smiling at ourselves? She speaks English well, except she calls our workshop Poetry Worships. No, we're our own gods. Miracles on our paper, created from song. We do creation. We write our own liturgy. We are our own church. She speaks English well, except she calls our workshop Poetry Worships. Good evening.
Gary Hicks. Next race shall be Christian Del Prete.
Depends on the nation you're in. Italy, Del Prete.
Oh.
America, anything goes. She comes down the stairs and says, "Damn, there's love in this room." Smiles and I feel pretty. Exiled on Main Street, good while it all slides into the morning. Some stay, some go, but everyone returns. Easy when you jazz. My friends of the love culture. Well asleep, half a kiss, riding on a good mood and a blue moon. Blurry vision, exuberant derision, a meshing of blushing. Swaying, playing in time, backwards, forwards, and too slow and too fast. Cocoon and bloom together as once as will be again. The arms spiraled and the souls entwined. Salvage the wine, disregard outside. I know you as a moment, a flirtation, a soul trigger. I know you as an exception, a star, a fan. I know you as a friend, a lover, my teacher, my student, decoration, a secret, an ace up my sleeve. I know you, I know you. The mantra puts me to sleep gently. This is called Message. I don't usually actually title my poems, but this one's called Message. Hide, be hide, hide, be hide, my hide, be my hide, behind, my hide, self, me, my own hide, my, be my hide, place, in, my side, keep, be, mine, hide, place, please. This is it. As if my words were worthy, running to your door, trees, clouds, tease, sounds, whisper, me. The sun smiles discreetly, and you love me discreetly. You make my life less lone sometimes. I can't help but grin, side tight, close, no. One knows, and it keeps drizzling.
Let's stick with the Italian. I'm going to call him Christian Del Prete. I like it. Nice work, brother. Thank you for sharing with us. 3 more readers. And I want to thank you all for hanging in with this end of the program, because there are always great poets at the end as well as the beginning. We're going to have, I'll just say the names of who's going to be coming up. Merle, Elizabeth Thomas, and James Van Loey, in that order. First shall be Merle.
It's all a lie, says the me in the eye. but lie as a dye which colors my sky, and if you try, you see more and more and more. The question I have right now is what to do with the vision. I need a few things before my journey. 1, peace. 2, energy. 3, love, which is a combination of 1 and 2. All these 3 combined create trust, and mostly, what is most important, self-reliance, something Ralph Waldo Emerson and many other travelers meditate upon. I'm looking for something, a clue, a proposition, a park bench, a safe translation of the vast space of which I cannot collect a direct composition depicting. The words, the action, the weathering, gesture to relieve my adult worry, to rectify the lying child laying innocently instead of the possibly malicious manipulator aged in deceit. When I was younger, perhaps all days before now, I would tell stories to win the hearts of Pulitzer Prizers, sizer uppers, crowds from all over. When I was younger, perhaps all of time before this moment of ablution, cleansing all combined, I suppose I told a lie. Touched with dis-ease or perversion, I think I felt dirtied or monstrous, only growing, only bursting, only my own misinterpretation of a love story between man and his world. If I speed quickly through this maze with my hair attractively flying to the much more omniscient wind, will I be at a fault upon the transmission of my bones into soil? Will I be completely uncomfortable in a state of rest, hungry, feeding only on coffin air and food for the worm? And if I stop now, if I reach around to buckle my bag, my belt, or my illusion, to buckle illusion. If I stop in my tracks and I ask the wind to whisper my mission because I swear I want to take it on, where does that leave me? Between 2 strangers' old family houses, in the midst of old tradition, in the trepidation of my own rendition, with a muzzle holding my snout from shouting about sweet love? Life is not about stopping. That is called the appreciation. Life is the movement about and around appreciation. I am waiting on a bench for the next sign now, and the only slice dividing myself and the more obvious man out of his mind is my great fashion sense and the ultimate belief of my own lie. I wrote this poem after I was thinking a lot about the difference between expression and being, or something like that. Expression, I say, lick bottom lip and wind blows my own days grown odorous up to my nose. I don't think it's true. For all the models with back pocket hands and nice boned toes on feet kicking in hysterium, it seems more expression is a light switch on and off. And where do you go when you venture deep into the woods without electricity? See, I do, and this is why. Can you just be with the girl with beat-up, bruised legs and a half pint of sorbet-stained shoulders from the sun, all welcomed over her limbs of limerickness unavoidable? She'll prance until you giddy up, kick her. She's trained not to feel it until she throws you off. Yeah, that's expression. Thanks. I'm gonna read one more. Thanks. This is one I wrote sitting in some cafe. I was watching some people or something. I like seeing this one glossy, attractive woman in black with yellow cake crumbs and soft pink lips thick with paint and pout and hands swift in gesture to her companion, much more plump and olive with bags of life full and blubbered under her eyes, shiny, small, blackened with a pencil, leather, sipping coffees and licking stained flesh around the opening of mouths, red straws and Ella Fitzgerald singing about all that a woman is and more. The in-between spaces of self-unrecognized magic, making the she what she is, more than rings white diamonded on fingers and crossed legs which could make any traffic back off, more than the graceful hand with naturally opaque white smile-like perfections grown in the bottom fourths of each nail, and little ears and even lemon slices, hair clips and loose strands. Am I all of this?
Thank you, Merle. Our penultimate reader would be Elizabeth Thomas.
Well, now I'm eccentric and penultimate. That's awesome. I'm going to be really eccentric tonight. Usually I read something sweet and romantic, but tonight I'm going to read about dead rodents. And they're short stories, I think. They're not really poems, but bear with it anyway. The first one's called Indicative. You should know. There was a female rat lying on the sidewalk, looking up at people in broad daylight, and I picked her up so she wouldn't be kicked, and I wasn't worried about rabies. Her nipples were pink, and the downy fur of her belly was licked back from them in gossamer eddies. She didn't look injured, but as I held her, laid in my hand with my forefinger under her heart, her ribs didn't seem right. I walked down Arrow Street and sat on the wall of a dorm. She was breathing okay, but she wasn't squirming much. Research has shown that rats will eat chocolate chip cookies mashed into milk even if they're so close to death that they won't eat anything else. So I asked her to get her one. And I sat on the sidewalk of Dunster Street. She lay on my arm, and I stroked her behind the ears. I think that as a wild animal, she would have been too proud to accept my sympathy, but she was so tired. Nevertheless, she nibbled at the cookie, but she couldn't swallow it. When you're doing something unthinkable, like trying to ease the pain of a common varmint, a dirty mother rat who crawled out of her warm and lint-lined home in the dryer duct, poisoned and desperate, passerby don't even see you. You're so quick, dismissed as crazy. Anyway, she died, and I tried to think of a place that would be heaven for a rat. Under the dumpster in the alley next to Harold's ice cream would do. Then somebody noticed me. So there I was, holding a dead rat in an alley in Harvard Square, and a cop thought I was waiting for drugs or peeing or foraging in the dumpster like so many common city rats do, good ones and bad ones. And when he saw my clean, wise, childlike face, he didn't know everything anymore. So he shook his head and walked away. I left the alley, reeling, sad and amazed. Wow, I got a woo. That's cool. And here's one called On Beauty and Morbidity, and it's a hard word to say when you're nervous, and it's also about dead rodents. 5 in the morning and into the street on my way to work at the bakery in the next block. Roadkill and a mourner who had followed her friend into the path of death and died of shock. So she was lying there on her side, still warm and complete and unscathed. I picked her up. You've got to understand that by the time something dies, its body's already been through the ringer. I can't stand to see it damaged more. I didn't want her to be run over any more than I want to be autopsied or cremated or embalmed. She was heavy, and really much larger than you'd think a squirrel would be. Browner, too, like a deer or a rabbit. I sat on the steps of my building in the clear, cool light with her across my hands in my lap. Morbid curiosity. You never get to see a squirrel being still. What did I think I'd captured? I feel guilty for having inspected the fur-mittened paws and large black eyes. Laid her in the evergreen bushes where I'd fed her extended family, washed my hands in hot water thrice, and went to work. How much time do we have? Another minute. Yeah, I know. I'm gonna try and get away with 2 poems, and these are like the stuff I usually read, I guess. The first one's called Separation. You and I, 3,000 miles distant and both our lives apart, we are spinning out strands while pulling apart our webs, each swearing we'll build a net as if we've not yet fallen. Each only hopes that your easternmost moves first from fragile body, that my westernmost moves to meet you. In the middle of the country, we'll come to rest, in those stone rooms bequeathed to you, under the earthen roof. We could find camouflage in the veins of the marble floors. Thanks. And the last one is one that I wrote this week for a friend of a friend named Cynthia, who has cancer. And she just told us. It's called Levity Gravity. My heart sank. The cancer's raw weight, like a bloodstone on your cheek, grounded the spark of your eye. Yet, I'm saving my hair for the birds this winter. What levity in light of death? What better resistance in the face of such gravity than to line the nests of flighted things in tiny new lives with your hair, softer than feathers and lighter than down? Thank you.
Elizabeth Thomas, thank you very much for that. Our last reader for this evening will be, it would appear, James Van Loey.
I was looking at William Blake tonight for something that we're trying to prepare, and I thought I would just share this really a couple of short things here. The first one is called The Voice of the Devil. Bibles or sacred codes have been the causes of the following errors: that man has two real existing principles, that is, a body and a soul, that energy called evil is alone from the body, and that reason called good is alone from the soul, that God will torment man in eternity for following his energies. But the following contraries to these are true. Man has no body distinct from his soul, for that called body is a portion of soul discerned by the five senses, the chief inlets of soul in this age. Energy is the only life and is from the body, and reason is the bound or outward circumference of energy. Energy is eternal delight.
Yeah.
And this is one of his short poems from Songs of Innocence. Ah, sunflower, weary of time, who countest the steps of the sun, seeking after that sweet golden clime where the traveler's journey is done, where the youth pined away with desire, and the pale virgin shrouded in show, arise from their graves and aspire where my sunflower wishes to go. Thank you.
James Van Loey. By the way, always like to bring up the fact that Stone Soup, over the many, many, many years, has been involved with different things. 4 years ago was started a workshop for homeless people at St. Francis House. James has been running that for the last 3.5 years. We have a book out from that. Anyone's interested, they're only $2 a piece, and great work inside of it. I want to thank, again, our features for this evening. Jean Louise, I think they're all gone. Jean Louise, Meg Brady, and Sylvia Bullitt. I want to thank them. Really beautiful show tonight. Next week, no less of a great show to look forward to, because we're celebrating not only close to July 4th, the 220th anniversary of America. Bring some poems that relate in any way you see fit to that experience and that ongoing, shall we say, process. And we'll have two features, Sebastian Lockwood and Adnan Onat. Sebastian, of course, with a wonderful accent. I would guess is a bit British, and I would guess Mr. Anat is from Pakistan. We have a nice cross-reference of America's 220th next week. Good Lord's willing, and the Creekstone, we'll see you by and by. I want to say thank you for Jerry behind the lights and sound, and for Angie behind the camera, and Julie and Maria, and everyone that ran the door, by the way. I guess a bunch of us did different things there. And always, as we do, let's have a special thank you to Miles and Bunny. Let's have a hand for their hospitality over these many years. By the way, you're an excellent audience. This is the best reading room. Everyone's told me that comes from out of state. They say, God, I love that place. In fact, we had 5 people from Cleveland, the Poetic Society, Black Poetic Society, and they said, man, this is the best room we ever read in. And they left us a couple of cards. They'd like to come back in the fall, and we may do that. So, thank you for being with us, and we will be back to the Lord's willing next week. By the way, anyone that knows we put chairs and tables away can help us. Once you see someone doing something like going in that direction, please join them.
But that's the great thing about good friends, you know, you can argue, and that can last as long as your relationship, as long as you respect one another.
And do you have something here that shows your respect for Monsieur Pound, or something that was had been inspired by your discussions? We would not say your arguments, but perhaps a discussion, or something in on answer to Monsieur Bukowski's a piece about the housewives and young boys and professors who just go on writing and writing. That would lift you up above the professors and young girls and boys and housewives.
Well, I do have a piece that was written essentially about a housewife. In fact, it's titled "The Young Housewife."
Oh, it sounds like something very French.
At 10 a.m., the young housewife moves about in negligee behind the wooden walls of her husband's house. I pass solitary in my car. Then again she comes to the curb to call the iceman, fishman, and stands shy, uncorseted, tucking in stray ends of hair, and I compare her to a falling leaf. The noiseless wheels of my car rush with a crackling sound over dried leaves as I bow and pass, smiling.
Very nice. Monsieur Williams and Monsieur Bukowski, we're almost out of time, and so I have to ask one question of both of you. Do you have any other words of quick wisdom to impart upon our listeners? And Monsieur Bukowski?
I'm gonna take you, the chubby girl in the front row. Will you fucking come home with me tonight? That's what I want to know. Will you fucking come home with it? Yeah.
And on that note, the WSSP Stones Poets Radio Cafe has gone off the air, and perhaps for this display of vulgarity and poetry, we shall be back again. But our sponsor, St. David's Stationery Supply Company, may not want to sponsor us any longer. Thank you once again, William Carlos Williams and Charles Bukowski. I am Chucky Pomfreaks, your host for the Radio Poets Cafe, and we shall return eventually. Thank you and good night.
Tonight's portrayal of the dead poets was Mark Goldfinger as Charles Bukowski, Lawrence Carradini as William Carlos Williams, and David Allen Boucher as Jockey Plum Freaks. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll be back in a short break. Because things gotta be picked up.
Okay, I have the pleasure next of introducing a relative. John Woodruff, who's coming up from New York all the way from Rhinecliff and way of New Jersey as well. John is a poet and a short story writer, a person who is creative in lots of spheres, in music and theater and in life. He is a creative, 2 children, in fact. 2 wonderful children, one of whom is here tonight, Michael. And we're very pleased to hear a work in progress, some parts sort of a family, sort of something about the family in the universe, which is the kind of oneself, family in the universe, the kind of things one relates to as a poet. So I'd like to welcome to the podium here, John Woodruff. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a tough act to follow, Bukowski, I mean. This is a set of poems called Of Death and the Planets, and it's basically, about a year ago, I decided I wanted to catch up with some dead souls, loved ones who have died. And I figured the best way to do it was by taking off and going through the solar system and catching up with them. First piece is called Prologue. Casting inadequate shadow, she kills time before eternity, fulminating a 5 billion year grudge at the moon. After rape splashing room for the Pacific, leaving part of his molten self within her, the bloodless, frozen intruder has hung around ever since. And aside from daily tossing her oceans, he never presents his dark side, ever. Beyond scorn and hell's fury, all she can do is methodically, but without apparent effect, block his light. That one day the sun will expand, and folding almost out to Mars in cooler deathly red, affords perverse satisfaction. Thank you. Mercury. The system's intractable unconscious. World closest to the sun, bounding blind leaps in logic. A year is 88 days. A day is 59 days. From high noon to high noon is 176 days. To have entrusted our messages for the gods to this trickster was crazy. Oblivious to our naive, prayerful projectiles, for 3 billion years the action there has been done. Save for one fateful moment, blasting our winged messengers close to asteroids, a seething wanderer world collided, moved in. Now 2 burning cores under flimsy wrap, locked and folded in cosmic embrace, the only marriage, shotgun notwithstanding, to have lasted since. This presently perfect spherical duality plays an elliptical orbit, keeping prying Copernican eyes straining. But like a cheap private dick, Mariner 10 managed some peeping Tom snaps. The gossip transforms from rumor to fact. They are very close to the beginning. And a pocked-baked adobe ball in the black sky, from the gods, a preview message of our own end. Thank you. Now, Venus. To modern astronomers who have peeked beneath her poison cream chiffon veils, love goddess could not be less apt. Acid winds whip relentless a fiery sulfuric tempest. All this hell caused by 100,000 active volcanoes. Astronomers are not poets. Volcanoes called coronas, mountains in collapse. Hot heaving breasts, she lies supine in uncontrollable rut, sick with love. Passion suffering constant, she is hotter than mercury. Her wanton gravity so high could crush a submarine. And upon meteoric impact into her pliant flesh, a peak always emerges in the aureole's center, nipples erect, heralding orgasm. Okay, now we catch up with the first soul, who, God bless her, is my oldest sister Mary. She died just a little over 2 years ago. Born 4 August, Mary, born 4 August 1943, died 19 January 1994. Quote, "All that is visible must grow beyond itself, extend into the realm of the invisible." I Ching, hexagram 50, Ting. With asthmatic, emphysemic, last gasp, you turned blue. They sedated you, shoved plastic air tubes, senseless, pathetic umbilical, through your trachea, and for 10 days you lingered embryonic in closed eyes, slow motion. As if stabbed, your torso jumped with each respirator inhalation. When between thrusts, lightly stroking your brow, I whispered in your ear I loved you, nothing happened. You are dead. I will never see you again. But your spirit hovers, probably not even yet past Mars, Mary. Your velvet voice, still so audible, tantalizes. Damned by helplessness, my living flesh is pinned by gravity. When your eyes, my eyes mirror, last looked into mine, frantic with sorrow, your end had arrived too unfairly fast. Uncustomary tears allowed mine, too willing. Among the polymer tubes and beeping sensors, I left you to join the dead. Were you really caught by surprise? You dared to dodge how cause and effect conspire in our minor moment of space. The doctors, after all, were annoyingly right. Are you listening to me? After Mother died, her brand Salem, witch's realm. Yours merit, the ultimate in denial. In her place, you were magnificent, but the paternal curse there from the start, taking insidious advantage of your overwhelm, brazenly surfaced. I remember you sitting yoga style in the hospital, your chosen place of worship, catatonic. Beautiful Mary in full bloom, you looked right past me. Electroshock among consenting adults finally tossed you from that mausoleum. Was it you who described in veteran nurse speak how the body jumps with the juice? You engaged in all manner of being fucked. Was it then you began to die? Or was it the numerous prescribed drugs, first to correct behavioral tilt, then to correct the microscopic savagings of the infernal correction, little glass and plastic bottles forever on your night table with ironical child-proof caps, or for overnight visits clustered in a cardboard box, each pill, each capsule unwittingly ready to turn coat, cure becoming killer. And after 20 torturous years, I saw you struggle from your car with a cane, bearing frightened witness to the once flipped sex kitten. Sleek, white bacall stick drooped from rouged lips, become a drug-bloated matron, still dragging weed. The time for dissuading you long gone, I no longer shared with you my secrets and my sins. Even that satisfaction you took from me, your baby steps toward oblivion distracting you. The last time you visited, when you thrilled to the heather along the thruway, I had not the heart to disabuse you. It was appropriate purple loosestrife. The demerits put away until tomorrow. You sat in the dark at a vanity, sucking an inhalator. A sourceless glint of light reflected from the mirror, the link between two Hail Marys on unlikely rosary beads. Hail Mary, full of grace and swollen alveoli. Ignition, you have blasted off. I am left with your oil of Peruvian lilies, by it you claim Queen of Naifs, our final delusion of grandeur. Fortunate to the point of being misjudged clever, I commissioned it just before lithium gave you the shakes. I laughed upon hearing you had donated your organs to science. The night you died, they did call for your eyes. I wonder how the undertaker would have made your closed lids look filled. But all of you rolled into the inevitable furnace. And with autumn's cool, the loose strife is gone, only dried brown stalk upon once magenta blossoms sprung. Thank you. Now we go on to Mars. Imagination charged by its spectacular surface, what was all the fuss about heroic bloodlust? Huge constructed canals, monumental humanoid faces, dense black forests coming and going in a season. All a trompe-l'oeil trick by fierce carbon winds, shifting tons of red iron dust. Our twin luxuriates in seasons twice as long, same tilt, same spin, even same iron core, but stillborn, without magnetic pulse, and that poses the question. Where long ago voluminous waterways cut valles marineris, within which the Rockies could comfortably hide, turns out not a battlefield, but an abandoned country house, to be one day engulfed by the suburbs. Unmanned reality checks bewilder. Let us have back our wars. And now on to Jupiter. Thank you. Inexplicable change, inextricable. A metallic molecule zoning the wakeful giant like suspicious Juno, we see perfectly well through the familiar but nonetheless insulting disguise. Close proximity strips its bright reflected sunlight. Deadly radiation pulses from within. Not planet Colossus, more something of a star, cold and tiny and dark, brown dwarf. Do alien astronomers view it binary partner with red dwarf Sol, surrounded by its own rocky planetary, impressive Ganymede, battered Callisto, Europa possibly for ice skating, a quick tan on Io. The intuitive ancients named it father of Apollo, sun god, but a dying ember compared. To be fooled by this insignificance misses the masquerade. Its ominous light conjures Dante's Rubicante, its sound Jude's murmurers. Revelation's earth where Michael flung the dragon, the place where rebel angels dwell, where Lucifer fell. And the final, thank you. Thanks. My final piece is halfway through the set, and it's my Hellraiser friend from college, who died 20 years ago this year. Patrick, born Halloween 1947, died Thanksgiving 1976. Quote, of what did the Duumvirate deliberate during their itinerary? Music, literature, Ireland, Dublin, Paris, friendship, woman, prostitution, diet, the Roman Catholic Church, ecclesiastical celibacy, the Irish nation, Jesuit education, careers, the study of medicine, the past day, the maleficent influence of the pre-Sabbath, Stephen's collapse, unquote. That's out of Joyce's Ulysses, the Ithaca section. Patrick. Beelzebub, Balloon Man, Satyr, Archangel, Persephone's son, brother to Thespis, Saltimbanque, Harlequin. You pounced on an unsuspecting audience, and playing among the seats the house cleared. Pioneer ad-lib performance artist, you wrote me bits as your Panza Pécuchet, your laurel, but even I did not stay for the complete run. Left to solitary devices, it was revealed the cancer worm had discovered your entrails. There was something human about you after all. Without shame, I resumed front row center. That grisly scene when you, leering, bear the surgeon's work running the length and breadth of your disemboweled torso. You made the fatal mistake of wearing the character out of the theater. By curtain, you were an aged Buddhist monk smoking a Marlboro Light. Complaint of pain rare, you were Prospera, left to your own faint strength, relieved by prayer, seeking my indulgence to set you free. I caressed your downy poisoned scalp and noticed a vein pulsing, the surprise of rot in the air. Inevitably, I disappointed you. I remained among the living. Noisy hell behind you, it is for me from this side to sing, no one knew better how to clothe an idea, and to the thorough annoyance of one and all, no one prolonged longer the serendipitous masked ball. Mephistopheles, hoochie-coochie man, Summerlee's son, trickster, word sucker, word smith, word fucker, word stiff, wordless writer, logical step after beloved Beckett, in the silence you don't know, you must go on, I'll go on, I can't go on. Your delightful wicked smile beckoning with barbarian tomfooleries. My spirit was weak and the flesh was all too willing. Alarmed, I saw the back seams of your shoes were rent. Always on the verge of jumping out of your skin, you were not of this world, something more than mortal. Afflicted with Juno-struck madness, you propagated rites of the great. At your wake, Robert Emmet, alive O'Connor, who, by the way, to remain here, never touches a drop, pontificated, only the good die young. And with recognizing the apparent verisimilitude of platitudes, my youth, and you along with it, had passed. You have awakened on the unfamiliar beach. Unsightly beggar, Minerva's final role for you. You are home. Go, take back your palace in that silent middle among the planets, and though you will never more hear the sound of my voice, my words, dear Patrick, as you wander among airy giants, are only just beginning. Thank you.
Woodruff. She's right behind you. You should say hello. We're going to take a no break right here because I'd love to get Cliff Evans up on stage, and he would love it too. So moving from John Woodruff to Cliff Evans. Let's have a hand.
Well, in honor of our country's continuing adolescence, I'm going to read a couple of things. They say junior high age kids are the meanest anyway. I'm going to read a couple of poems about things which seem to be pretty much embedded in our culture's DNA, the salesman and the demagogue. This first one is about a guy I actually worked with for a while. His name was Ray. Ray straightens his tie today, punches a clock and sips his coffee. His face keeps smiling for the sake of a wife and kids. The handshake still works, and he's got his cards and mailing list, his attempts to boost commission laid out in little rows. Hell of a thing after 25 years to start over. Hell of a thing. The wisecracks, the whispers, he endures and endures. Good thing the wife's making decent money because even a lousy stock boy's taking home more than him. Straight commission, hell of a thing. Half his age salesman cut in line and do him in, heading off all his customers while he's stuck over in boys trying to size up some kid for his bar mitzvah. Keep smiling for the sake of this kid. Straight commission. And it's all short of shrift and he's hard bent for sympathy. Too many jealous ears attached to too many mouths who mock. Even a lousy stock boy. But what are you to do when you're getting screwed and it's still more of a job than you were finding? 25 years. Hell of a thing. You can take the 8 hours and shove them to the back of your head along with the time card punched out. A couple of drinks, the hand shakes, but it still works. Home in a couple of hours. Keep smiling for the sake of the wife and kids. Ray loosens his tie. That's a really old, raw, fetal version of something I've read here before, but I'll have plenty of new, fresh stuff at my feature on July 29th. He said we can just have cheap publicity. Yes, right here, right now, lots of new stuff. This next one, in case you've never heard of this guy, is about someone named Fred Phelps, who was a defrocked, I believe, Baptist minister who has made his career out of traveling the country, picketing the funerals of people who have died of AIDS and telling their friends and family that they deserve this God's wrath and they deserve it for living an immoral lifestyle. And I'm one of those people who thinks that's a bad idea. This is sort of an elegy for him. Even as the friends and family of the fags you hated are gathering in their memory to raise a glass and smile, you and your suit for one and your shabby bathrobe will be slumped in front of the TV, static serenading you as you rot quietly in your final coronary distress. And I, like a good Christian, will remember you, if only to spit at the thought of you, because Fred, you taught me by example that nobody should die unnoticed. Thank you.
Yes, and don't miss that feature. Cliff Evans. Now, I want to say thank you, by the way. Cliff helped with something we needed done tonight. And that was really reinforced. I appreciate that very much. Next shall be, and whenever I do this means Erik Nelson. Erik Nelson.
This, once again, is my poem about why I haven't written enough poetry lately. The muse laments and asks the question, why? Is it my job to hang out with this guy and stare at his perennial blank page and watch him go through every little stage that everyone goes through? It's such a bore. To watch him say things others said before. The same old junk, and I've got to pretend it's new. I'd rather go away and do a few projects of my own that matter more. I'm tired of always playing second fiddle to some Narcissus wrapped in his own riddle. I think I have some better things to do. This stuff's not too important to ignore. This one is called Getting Along and Going with the Flow in America. Watch where you drink and watch where you pee. Make way for ducklings and don't tread on me. Thank you very much.
That was Erik Nelson. To be followed by, lucky enough, Matt Boston.
I've got two tonight. The first one is an older one. Machines at midnight. Conveyor belts run, robots dancing synchronous. Spark motor bits and puzzle around some circuit boards. Stuck in process 25. Electrons crackle down through telephones. Men watching machines and factories. Stuck in process 25. In research labs, cables scramble, nuclei flick periodically, magnetic fields, oscilloscopes, computer screens. A million numbers should tell us what is real. Why this, why here, why now? Stuck in process 25. Exhausted houseflies crippled in corners quietly die. Sounds real in space. A virus reprograms someone's chromosomes.
stuck in process 25. Blood circles through arteries and veins, a heart beats, always keep on breathing, muscles moving over bones, and couples fuck and fuck and fuck and can't make love, stuck in process 25. Writers, thinkers, artists, painters, hands move on paper, some currents in their brain, they try to explain. There are the words again, time to go insane, stuck. Even the most mature people have to grow up to reality sometimes, and I've started taking driving lessons at the tender age of 28. This is called Out on Mass Ave. Out on Mass Ave. I'm a conscientious objector to cars. They stuff the air with monoxide, litter on the landscape, tarmac grids, and steal the fuel that should have kept my grandchild warm. Archaeologists of the 21st century will find a world of rubber tires. But hey, this is America. Without a car, you don't exist. You have no license for your life. You cannot shop decently, cannot get to work, cannot see the sea, cannot seduce girls, cannot feel some power to be free. So I finally get behind the wheel of a car, $20 an hour, having answered questions. Every baby knows when it's seen a traffic light turn green or red. Pakistani instructor says, this is for the gas, these are the brakes, and here's how you steer. Now, out on Mass Ave. Turn left. Turn left, left.
I would like to do one poem before some friends have to leave. The Woodruffs, I want to thank you all you guys, the whole families out there. I just want to do one poem. And I'll dedicate this to Julie. Very short piece. Sweet mouth, which tastes of birch, seen at brief twilight oranging, amid purple-cloaked brandy, ringing a lilted tongue swirl at the moment when trying to say something, in all the flavor, but more important than, and the sinking, gone into the absolute other, into the mysterious, melodic opening all through the symphony of lips, and the echoing faintly, as though we had sung. Next, we shall have Merl Swartz. Merl Swartz.
Thank you. I just got here Friday. I'm from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and there I am a poet of no small repute, though indubitably ill repute. I'm a film student, I'm a classical cellist, I don't know what you're thinking.
Reads.
Yeah, I'm a poet who reads. Okay. Let's keep going with the I ams here. I am no insomniac. I sleep in their pauses. Alone are the well-rested, alone after years of healing, from being torn, ripped muscle, blood, mucus, salted, chewed, digested. Forget it. I am no stoic. I feel when you are gone. There's something in the memories that never fails to almost make me laugh, nearly induce tears, barely provoke love. I am no dominatrix. I submit to most power. If it's worthwhile, if I like it, I submit. Okay, and move this way. All right. Okay, I'll read this. Don't sing me a mockingbird, don't sound me your footsteps. I'm shivering within your very breath is trauma. I'm fine, it's just the nicotine, I guess. Haven't been smoking much these days. We all know the shape of lies, hands run white on cold, curved marble. I am the sculptor, I am the sculptor. I fashion these little things to hand you in boxes with ribbons and tissue. I fashion you an absence. And if, without me, you are less, become less, I won't take the art you give me in return. Don't sing me a mockingbird, don't sow me your footsteps. The world is wide and cold. Across the great black ocean, great black beasts roam and roar. It seems sometimes as though you are one of those, rearing your heavy head above the waters, strung with fish and garlanded by seaweed, bellowing that I am nothing, that I am nothing. A forest, as is pleased by such monotonous bloodletting to blanch your hair to ghost breath, dry dreams along the riverbed. She runs a hot hand across his jawbone and slicks the cartilage, blood wet with saliva and salt water. The wooden slats of this crate which surrounds me shrivel. There are splinters in my eyelids. Here, ice draws near. I see the glacial drift behind her back. I see the gelid flows incensed inside and passion-swollen lips, a sinking sickness. A blood-wet chair, a menstrual salad. Touch me here, touch me here, touch me here. She downs 3 shots of ashes as the graceful, jagged breaths subside. I am grateful now to nothing. Hear the music. Hear the cries of soft-set babes in arms, not nearly gelled. Hear the screams, agonizing. She cups his legs into her arms and crushes the bone. There is no fire. Ice flows and flesh is near. She takes 3 shots of ashes and everything is fine. Erik is remembered in the splinters of another soul consigned to flames. Oceans of ice, the cold consumes, the cold consumes. She gulps 3 shots of ashes and her eyes are red. She cradles his hands in hers and the dust ebbs on the fog. She sinks 3 shots of ashes and everything is gone, all dried and cut from the wire, on the fire, on the pierced hearts of 10 million canaries. She downs 3 shots of ashes and everything is dead. There's kind of a second part to that poem, although it's actually part of an epic poem that I'm about to scrap most of. The first 20 or 30 pages were much too much inspired by T.S. Eliot. Enough said. Antony and Cleopatra are a government plot. Let's die before surrender. Let's die for our country. Let's die for love. How could anyone be worth that? How could you love someone so much more than you love yourself? How can you let God tie your shoelaces for you? How can you assume there is a God, or 2 or 10, or women and children first? Let them occupy the sharks and morays. Foray, foray, foraging in the forest life's for me. And all my heroes, dust comprised of idols, dead men be. Cut, and the last shot here is the last sheet there. The film is almost over. The film is almost over, and the men who made it, these are the pearls that were their eyes. The tempest grows thick. Zeus is vengeful for being disenfranchised, yet not forgotten. Holy, holy, holy. Invested vestments to the sacred trinity. I'd sell my soul or my clothes for someone to tell me how to live. No, I'm lying again. And as the sirens call, the siren sings in her mirror pool, driving epic heroes rave insane as the mermaids scream their thrashing to the tin but lusty ears of sailors, and as we sink beneath the skin, it slips overhead and closes like a zipper holding life and death at separate ends of the table, arm's length, but with the devil betwixt, opposite sides of the spectrum, as the pallid, perfect arms draw us sensuously into velvet depths, perhaps not. A last simple thought of error enters before scaled lips nurse ours and draw us dead, life and breath, blood, sucking the air out of our lungs, and the darkness sucks loudly, and the void usurps our hearts, draped in kelp and seeing water, sprites and nymphs, and echo deep where only naive narwhals swim.
Thank you, Merle. A visitor, new visitor with us. Let's have a hand for Merle Swartz. Thank you. Gary Hicks, are you still with us? Who's on the other side? God bless. There you are. Gary Hicks on next to you. Welcome back, brother.
Two new raincoats. January 13th. No, first one. July 1996. On the Esplanade, hundreds of thousands listening, paeans to the Tsar. Half the globe distant, from border unto border, bears maul the people. China revising to get rich is glorious, red fashion statement. Cuba is sending doctors to South Africa. Health is a class act. Vietnam concludes 8th Party Congress, head above water. Chiapas cordoned, but in Guerrero province, rebels in the hills. Saudi clan trembles. One cannot behead jihads. Islam will triumph. Ayacucho hills add to our understanding of how to tell time. Here in my homeland, in the countryside and cities, prairie fires will spread. On the Esplanade, fireworks light up the pitch. Optimists prelude. January 13th, 1977. Driving to our home, Neva cradled in your arms, Emily in mine. Both bundled up warm, Eddie's car gently rolling helps them sleep longer. Our Linwood Street house, pilgrimage from infant care to their single room. Cradle shared by two, a few months until the day both will crawl about. Same crib, side by side, laid down gently, quietly. Then it all begins. They open their mouths, bass, treble, woofer, tweeter, Bambi and Pooh Bear. Calling reveille of boot camp for new parents, months of nights to come. Good evening.
Gary, great to have you back with us. Thank you for that. After Gary Hicks, we now have Kathleen, Tannian. Kathleen.
Watching fireworks with my aunt. I hurled my 36-pound frame at hips of woman with a tray. She balanced it. The lines appeared. Around her eyes, she touched my head. Smoke swirled round me, spicy smell. I swirl and swirl around and through, not touching down, not sure what is real. He always gets drunk every year, so hazardous to drive like that. As Uncle Gino flirts with woman who played dolls with Mom, she died, you know. Skin cancer, so they said, you know. America, let's drink a toast, not knowing that you nod and smile. Recall where you last saw this clown. Ben Franklin gave the Indians rum. A boy is hanging by the swing oar there. His name is Chance. This is my family. This is Chance. My sense of pride says I belong, but I'll be nice to him today. At dusk on glowing smooth slate stones, while they eat brownies with no nuts. Mom makes them that way every year. They laugh and say, economy. I do a dance I'll do in June, when Dad sits in his suit and shifts, and yawns and watches, then he leaves. He gets up really early, see. Cold grainy sand, I hold her hand and listen to her laugh and look at all the colors in the sky, a glistening piece of time each one. 1950s burst forth the 60s, me and my aunt, facets, hues. I asked her to do just one more. I didn't know then, only swirled. Thank you.
Kathleen, Tannian, thank you very much for sharing that with us. James Van Boy, should be over the other side of the room. James. Astonishing. Pleasure to invite up now, Jamie.
Since both the major political parties that we are all saddled with have taken up the cause of family values, I thought I would read this poem, which is about the fact that there was always this time when we had birthdays, and so it's sort of a generational thing, the birthdays. When I was growing up, it was my father and his much older twin brothers at the end of every July, just before the dog days of August and not long after the horrific heat and fireworks of Independence Day, we would all have to gather, the three nuclear clans of Van Loey, Dutchness, and Melting Pot America for the celebration. It was an ongoing point of contention and irritation, almost to the explosion of rage to my father, that we always had to go down to Detroit to one of his brother's places for these events. First on the old Dixie Highway, wending its way down the industrial corridor from Bay City to Detroit, through Saginaw, Flint, and Pontiac, and then the suburbs of Detroit itself, for hours and hours of stoplights and steaming cars and crazy traffic trying to pass on two-lane stretches and traffic jams at each little town, and the three of us boys in the back seat kicking and elbowing to mark out our territories, splitting the seat in half and fighting for possession of the floor space between the back of the front seat and beneath the back seat, where we would put pillows to fill in the wells on either side of the hump of the drivetrain so we could stretch out and sleep away the long hours, which became shorter and shorter as we grew older, and the interstate, piece by piece by piece, was finally completed by the time that Eisenhower finally left us to the tender mercies of the industrial military complex. The party itself
was anticlimactic. Just a welter of barbecue and gin drinking, somehow more for the adults than us kids who huddled in the basement, playing with our cousins' toys, or as I did, listen to the family gossip as the aunts and my mother prepared the huge feasts with which to assuage the gargantuan appetites of the gluttonous family. It marked the middle of the summer, already tinged with the ever-growing sadness of the approach of Labor Day and the return to school that had seemed so far, far away, in the ecstasy of June after the last achievement test not so long after Memorial Day. The last such party finally took place at one of my cousin's places on a Platte Lake near Traverse City, where part of the family removed itself because Detroit turned into a wasteland following the riots. Again, a long drive, not long after my dad's second twin brother died, and not that long before my father died himself. At last, having the satisfaction, finally, of being the family patriarch for a while, if only a short while. Now the birthdays come at the beginning of June, just before the roses bloom, and belong to my ex-wife and her two youngest kids. The party, mostly for the kids, seems to always been in one of the several triple-deckers in which they have lived and grown up. There is no alcohol. We simply walk next door. Now, it's just a carrot cake made by the kids' dads and pastor who places barbecue. The long journey is to attempt to understand how our lives have changed, how our lives are nothing like we ever could have imagined when we were growing up, and how we have all come together, still here together, when everything in our parents' lives said over and over otherwise. Yet we are a family yet. We hold and are close and closer perhaps than we ever imagined or ever could have hoped. Maybe even all the more so in this madness America has become, perhaps even more so is becoming this life yet that we all have together. What these events will mean to the kids, I wonder, but surely will not decipher any more than my parents could have known how I would have looked back on the way they lived their lives. I'm only sure I will not know what it will mean to the kids any more than my parents knew how much it meant to me who they were. Thank you.
And what happens? Goodness gracious, we ended on time. The Lewis Woman Freakstone Ride. I want a very special, by the way, please look around for these. Thanks to a very accommodating person out in the audience. We actually got these printed tonight with evidence. I should have had it done, and I didn't have them with me, and he was kind enough to get these done for us. But please look at this, a remarkable composite here of things. Next week we do Compost Magazine, and they're in their 4th year, and they do a lot of international stuff, as we did tonight. And Adnan, he's already gone, but what a cross-cultural person he is in his own being. And it was really great to celebrate the 220th here tonight. And a lot of people did hits on that, and he certainly did as a feature. And I want to thank very especially a person that we didn't expect as a feature tonight, John Woodruff, who we enjoyed his work extremely. And he took us beyond internationalism into the planetary system, which was very good. We enjoyed that. And some of those planets are pretty sexy, I just have to say what it is. Now, next week, Compost Magazine, I already said. And who do we thank? Mr. Higgins, Lights and Sound. Thank you very much. Angie, for shooting us. Thank you very much. And Julie and Meg for covering the door. One more time. God bless. And Miles and Bonnie for their hospitality for these many years here at T.T. DeBear's place. Not your average rock and roll bar, and perhaps one of the most interesting poetry places in the world, we think so. And so join us again if you would. And for all of you who are first-time readers, come back again, we hope. And sometimes if you like rock and roll, it's a nice club to come to on a night other than a Monday. But on a Monday, we hope to romance your ears. So we'll be back to Good Louis Woman. Thank you. Bye-bye. Oh, very special thing before the sound goes off. I am so stupid. A new place in Boston, relatively new, on Endicott Street at the north end, right around from Cross Street. Has anyone ever gone shopping at Haymarket? Okay, if you're at Haymarket and you wanted to go across to the north end, you have to go under the expressway. Getting to the other side, you see Salem Street immediately. You take a left there, and right around the corner is Endicott Street. There's a group there called, well, Tannian Compound, and it's at 67 Endicott Street. There'll be they call it writer's block, which is kind of interesting because we had a writer's block for a while doing poetry stuff. But every Tuesday at 7:30, they're going to try and do a writer's workshop. And a number of people have been asking me, hey, why don't we do a writer's workshop? Well, we don't have a place to do it. So I have offered to do one of them, and we're going to have several people different nights of the week. So on the 30th of July at 7:30, anyone that's interested, I'll do a writer's workshop then. But every Tuesday night at 7:30 at 67 Endicott Street in Boston's North End. A very nice and exciting group of people working to do, well, multimedia stuff, not just poetry, not just theater, not just, well, all the machines. They use some nice machines too. But it'll be a fun thing for all of us, but we are going to do a writer's workshop there, so join us, please. Thank you.
That was Jack Powers at Stone Soup Poets. This evening we presented Jerry and Angie, Karen Miguel, Erik Nelson, Murray Denofsky, Allan Finnigan, Gary Hicks, Christian Del Prete, Merl, Elizabeth Thomas, James Van Loey. Plus part 2, we presented the Radio Cafe, John Woodruff, Cliff Evans, Erik Nelson, Matt Boston, Jack Powers, Meryle Swartz, Gary Hicks, Kathleen Tannian, and as a reprise, James Van Loey. Tune in next week for the final program in our Stone Soup Poets series for November. We'll be presenting Lee Lateef, The Wrong Hero, Richard D. Fitzgerald, Eric Diossi, Chief Autumn Tree, Joanna Naylor, Michael D. Sessling, Nancy Mindick, Debbie Byrne, Mark Goldfinger, C.C. Ashagra, David Dallin Boucher, Dan Luft, Sebastian Lockwood, Adnan Onart, and part 1 of the Radio Cafe. You are tuned to Noise Party. Noise Party is broadcast every Wednesday night on Cambridge Community Television, Channel 55 at 9 p.m. The show is produced by Francis DiMenno. I thank you for tuning in. I am, in fact, your producer. This program was shot live at TT the Bears. Thanks to Bonnie Boulet and Miles. And Michael Higgins for doing the sound. On what I presume was probably very short notice.